Silent Hill's poster boy, the most popular demon slash guardian slash bodybuilder in the entire town and the franchise spokesperson. When the developers of the games are ready to turn on those industrial strength fog machines and they need someone to stand in front of them for some brand recognition, he is their first call. For a lot of people, Pyramid Head is Silent Hill, and that's exactly the problem. Even if you've never played the games, I'm sure you've seen him. The massive triangular helmet, the dragging blade behind him, that slow, labored walk. He shows up in movies, merchandise, spin-offs, cosplay, and fan art. However, as I was doing the research for this character, I learned something that kind of left me bewildered. The man who created him wishes that he never existed. That sounds dramatic, but Masahira Ito, the artist behind Pyramid Head, actually said in 2022 that he regretted ever creating him. So my new objective was now obvious. I needed to learn how a monster that was designed for one story, which was a sequel, no less, turned into a franchise mascot, and why that success was such a problem. To answer that, we have to go back to why Pyramid Head was created in the first place. When Silent Hill 2 was being developed, the team knew the story was going to be deeply psychological. This sequel wasn't going to be about cults or demons like the first game. This game was about guilt and repression and a man who just couldn't forgive himself. Masahiro Ito was tasked with designing something that could act as a psychological function. James Sunderland, the protagonist, was going to be hiding a terrible truth from himself, and the game needed something that could embody his subconscious desire to be punished. That's all Pyramid Head was built to be, not some demon, not the town guardian, and not some ancient curse. He's a walking executioner created by James's own mind. Ito designed Pyramid Head as something deliberately inhuman. His face is hidden under this impossibly big helmet. He carries heavy weapons that look genuinely painful just to use. And probably the most overlooked aspect, he was designed to have an expiration date. By the end of Silent Hill 2, James would confront what he did, and once that happened, Pyramid Head would no longer be needed. So, Ito gave him an ending. But what happens when a monster that was built for one very specific purpose and then dies becomes the most popular thing in your entire franchise? Because that's exactly what happened next. After Silent Hill 2 was released, Pyramid Head immediately stood out. He was iconic. Fans talked about him, artists drew him, and it was safe to say that players remembered him more than almost anything else from the game. And that kind of attention can really shift the focus. Once Pyramid Head became popular, he went from being just a story element into becoming a brand asset. And when a character becomes a brand, publishing companies start asking one very dangerous question, and that is, how can we use this again? The problem is, Pyramid Head was never designed to be a reusable character, not mostly exclusively because he only makes sense in the context of James Sunderland's guilt in that one story. Eventually, new games were made and new protagonists were introduced. And instead of creating new monsters that were tied to these new protagonists' psyches, they just kept bringing back Pyramid Head, essentially ripping his symbology away from the mind that it came from. Ito did not like this. Sure, he created the character, but the publishing company, Konami, owns the rights, and they can use him however they want. Let's go a little deeper into that symbology. I feel like I'm just floating around that, and I'm not really shining a spotlight on that, so let me change that. However, if you came here from my Pyramid Head Explained video, then you'll already have a good sense of it. But in short, in Silent Hill 2, James killed his wife, Mary. He couldn't live with that truth, so he buried it deep inside himself. But the town of Silent Hill has a way of exposing the dark truths to the people that need it most. Pyramid Head is James's internal executioner. It's the part of his mind that believes he deserves to suffer for what he did. That's why Pyramid Head repeatedly kills Maria, which is a woman in the game who looks just like Mary, James's wife. Maria is James's denial. She's the fantasy that Mary is still alive and that everything is fine. If James can put eyes on his late wife's doppelganger, then he can trick himself into thinking that she never died and that he never killed her. At the end of the game, when James finally accepts the truth, the two Pyramid Heads, one for each person that James has killed, are no longer needed, so they impale themselves on their own spears. This is one of the most powerful moments in Silent Hill 2. The monster literally disappears once its symbolic purpose has been fulfilled. So, if Pyramid Head is supposed to die with James's denial, and James isn't the protagonist in any other Silent Hill entries outside of Silent Hill 2, then why does Pyramid Head keep showing up everywhere? The first big misuse came with Silent Hill Homecoming. James is not in that game. I probably don't need to tell you that, or maybe I do, I don't know. But the story has nothing to do with James or his guilt, but Pyramid Head is there anyway, and this time he's reimagined as just some generic executioner that's tied to the town's history. Visually, he's still Pyramid Head. They don't dare mess with the way he looks. But symbolically, he's empty. He's a bit more jacked in Homecoming, and Ito did not like this either. Ito has said repeatedly that there needs to be a reason for a monster to be muscular, and he never intended for Pyramid Head to be as ripped as he ends up being. In fact, Ito intentionally drew him leaner in Silent Hill 2 so that when he's dragging the great knife behind him, you can see him actually struggling with it. Pyramid Head was much leaner in Silent Hill 2, but you can tell he's been hitting the gym and getting his macros in more recently. It makes me wonder, what do you think the gym looks like in Silent Hill? Ito has said that Pyramid Head should never exist without James being the central character. He's also said that when you take James out of the story, Pyramid Head simply isn't meaningful at all anymore. He's just a big, scary Oogie Boogie. Ito never said Oogie Boogie, by the way. I said that, but you get it. The franchise just kept going, and then finally, the movies came. In the 2006 Silent Hill movie, Pyramid Head shows up as this brutal killer who attacks cult members and monsters. He looks incredible on screen, don't get me wrong. He's violent, he's intimidating, and he's instantly recognizable. And he has absolutely nothing to do with James Sunderland. Movie Pyramid Head is not a physical manifestation of anybody's guilt or desire for self-punishment or subconscious projection. But he does look cool, and you know who he is, and that's clearly all the studio cared about. And when the second Silent Hill movie, Silent Hill Revelation, came out in 2012, the studio just lathered, rinsed, and repeated, to absolutely nobody's surprise. I'm not bashing the movies here, I actually enjoy them. They're part of my comfort horror collection. I'm just hoping to highlight the intensity of how far Pyramid Head has strayed from his intended path. It was around this time that Pyramid Head's transformation was complete. He'd gone from being this deeply personal psychological symbol to being Silent Hill's version of Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers. Just some recognizable thing that you can drop into a story and be confident that it'll sell. Ito has said that this is exactly what he never wanted. But why did it keep happening anyway? Now for me, as a fan of Pyramid Head myself, and as someone who played the game during his formidable years, with the lights on, mind you, I couldn't do it in the dark, this is the part that hurts to say. Pyramid Head had become way too successful for his own good. When a character becomes iconic, publishers stop caring about what he means and they shift focus to what he can sell. Pyramid Head was officially a logo. That's why he kept showing up in games and movies and spin-offs that had no narrative reason for him to even be there. And in 2022, after years of watching his creation be turned into a hollow mascot, Ito finally said what a lot of fans never expected him to say. He wished that he had never created Pyramid Head in the first place. I'm sure he still liked his original design. He doesn't regret that. He made it. The publishers signed off on it. But every time Pyramid Head would show up beyond Silent Hill 2, whether in games or movies or any other tie-in media, a little more of his original meaning was worn away each time. And most people don't even realize that happened. That's about all I got. I'll see you in another one.